Okay, Mike, we're ready to go.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Maya. So we'll call a meeting to order. Good morning. The online meeting of the Leeward Planning Commission will now come to order. It's Thursday, September 16th, 2021. The time is 9:31 a.m. Based on the governor's emergency proclamation related to COVID-19, dated August 5th, 2021, we're holding this meeting online to maintain physical distancing and prevent the spread of COVID. The public can observe the meeting on YouTube live stream by following the link provided on the county website calendar or by using the URL advertised on the agenda. The video recording will be available on the same YouTube channel. The minutes and transcripts will also be posted at the county website at a later date. I'd like to remind all the participants the protocol for the meeting. Please silence your phones and any other devices near you. Only one person may speak at a time. Speak directly into your microphone and keep your microphone muted while you're not speaking. If we talk over each other or if our microphones pick up background noise, the dialogue can't be transcribed. Thanks so much for your cooperation. Let's see. Moving on to the roll call. As requested at our last meeting, I'm going to ask each commissioner to introduce themselves. So when you're called, please tell us a little bit about your background. We'll start with Vice Chair Barbara DeFranco.
Hey. Good morning. Hi, I'm Barbara DeFranco. I've lived here in Kona on Polyaku Gardens for 50 years now. And I have a wonderful history here of doing special work for the community. I was part of the CEO project for the county. It was a community empowerment group where we focused on projects in all the districts around the island to help the community accomplish things that they needed to be done. I worked and was part of the organizations of All the Neighborhood Watch that started up years ago to help with our ice epidemic that was happening back then. But my passion has been creating Polyaku Peace Gardens, which is a nonprofit organization, botanical garden located on Pena Church Road. And I've been doing that for about 30 years. And we're open to the public. And our mission is to provide a place, a facility that encourages peace and harmony for individuals and communities. So we do a lot of different things here, from yoga classes to hula classes. And for a living, I work downtown at a retail wholesale place called the Indich Collection. I'm a design consultant and work within a lot of the homes. I'm glad that we're allowing ourselves to introduce each other, because being on Zoom, none of us sit to have coffee or lunch or get to know who we really are. And I thought it was important that, the members of the community and the county council, because we don't get to meet with them either, sort of know who we are as commissioners and see what our dedication is. I also want to mention I have one daughter here, 4 Hawaiian grandchildren, and 9 Hawaiian great-grandchildren that live here in Hawaii. I'm very committed to I'm going on too long, I'm sorry. Very committed to the preservation of Hawaii and our cultural, I'm very culturally sensitive, and I just want you all to know that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Shawnee Armbruster.
Hi, sorry about that, technical difficulties. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Shawnee. I am a resident of Waimea. I moved here for the first time in 2003, right after undergrad, and then ended up leaving to go back to school for a couple of years. I've been back since 2014. My background is in environmental and hazard mitigation planning. I studied and worked in that field in New Orleans post-Katrina. So it was a wonderful and kind of tragic situation to get your feet wet in, but I think that it's a field that really transfers all over the world. So I'm happy to get to contribute here on the Big Island. I'm also an enthusiastic dog mom. So if anybody sees me at the dog park, say hi. And I love to travel. That's me in a nutshell.
Okay. That it? Okay, thank you. Commissioner CJ Kanuha.
Aloha. Yeah, like you said, my nickname's CJ Clement Kanuha. I was born and raised here on the island of Hawaii. I was a professional athlete. I own multiple businesses. And just like Barbara, I've been involved with our community, with such as my family, through multiple nonprofits here and all over the world, trying to help and empower our youth and take care of our community. I'm very strong in our cultural belief and protection of our cultural, significance here in Hawaii, and also just, being a voice for our community and being able to help facilitate the things that we do here as a commission, because it's a big thing for us. Is it's a great privilege with everyone, and yeah, I would love to sit down and have coffee with each and every one of you one of these days, so we're not looking at each other on a screen. But yeah, we have a lot on our hands and a lot to do, to make this community better and sustain our economy and build things up, which will help not only our grandkids but our great grandkids.
Oh,
Thank you, guys.
okay. Commissioner Faye Yates.
Well, aloha, everyone. It's wonderful to find out a little bit about all of us. I was born and raised here in Kohala, and then went to elementary here and then graduated from Konawana High School. I am CJ's uncle's classmate, Zachary. And of course, we all know the Kanuhas because we were raised there down at the beach and all of that. And I too, really concerned about our culture and keeping things that is Hawaiian, that we can keep and help people to know a little bit about, or know whatever they can about, our way of life. And, I'm very proud of the fact that, my grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents have been here since the time of Kamehameha. And of course, I've been involved with many different community organizations, such as the Hawaiian Civic Clubs, member of Hula Halau, the Kupuna program. I am currently the president of the Kohala Senior Citizens Club, affiliated with the county. And through this, I've been able to meet a lot of very hardworking people in the county and getting to be friends with them and sharing a lot of time, on our island anyway, to do things for and by our folks who live here, and to try to give them or make right decisions that help all of us. I have 3 children, 20 grandchildren, and 20 great-grandchildren. So I have a lot of work ahead of me. So with that, thank you.
Thank you. I'm the chairperson, Mike Batusik. I was born in Kapilani Hospital on Oahu, but grew up in Waimea here on the Big Island. I have a master's degree in applied archaeology and cultural resource management from Manoa. Worked for 6 years with the Department of Land and Natural Resources Historic Preservation Division as lead archaeologist on both Oahu and Hawaii Island. Was hired as a cultural resource manager for Hopulia, and now I'm manager of land and development for the project down here. My family's been in Kealakekua for 4 generations, 5 if you include my kids. I've got a daughter at Konawaina Elementary School and a daughter at Konohanwanji Preschool. My wife's a physical therapist in Kainaliu. Just like everybody else, we volunteered for this to try to leave the community in a better place. So all the commissioners, thanks for sharing, and glad to get to know you all a little better. Mahalo. We also have ex officio member Robin Matsumoto representing the Department of Public Works. Again, Robin, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And like you said last time, please feel free to provide mana'o anytime you can. Like you said, think of yourself as a member.
All
Mahalo.
right, thanks a lot.
Okay, continuing on with the introduction of staff. We have Deputy Corporation Counsel, Delilah Schluter, attorney for the Planning Commission. We have Deputy Corporation Counsel, Jean Campbell, attorney for Planning Department. Thank you. Deputy Planning Director, Jeff Darrell. Planning Program Manager, Maya Jackson. Planner, Jessica Andrews. Planner, Alex Roy. Is Alex here? I don't see Alex.
He's not here yet. He'll be joining us for item 2.
Okay. And Leeward Planning Commission Secretary, Noriko Sauer. Mahalo, Noriko. We have 2 sets of minutes to review and approve. The minutes for the meetings of July 15th, 2021 Joint Planning Commission and the August 19th, 2021 Planning Commission meetings have been circulated. Are there any corrections to the July 15th Joint Planning Commission meeting? None. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner DeFranco. Second by Commissioner Kanuha. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Are there any corrections to the August 19th Leeward Planning Commission meeting minutes? If not, can there someone make a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Kanuha, second by Commissioner DeFranco. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, seeing none, the motion carries. We'll now move on to statements from the public on agenda items. The commissioners have received some written testimony, both in support and in opposition, on the Kona Aerials gymnastics team application. We also have quite a few members of the public here on Zoom to testify. Let's see. If everybody could turn on their cameras, I will swear you in together. Mahalo. Please raise your right hand. Okay. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on the matter before the Leeward Planning Commission? You can just nod. Right on. Thank you. Okay. Please limit your testimony to 3 minutes and please don't be repetitive. Staff will let you know at 2.5 minutes by ringing a bell. If you've submitted written testimony, please don't just reread it. We've read it already. You're welcome to summarize and update your testimony here in person. After your testimony, the commissioners may have questions for you. And when there are no more questions, please log out of the Zoom platform and switch to the YouTube channel if you want to keep watching the meeting. This is to limit the participants on the screen in order to better manage the meeting and also minimize connection disturbance and noise. Okay, first up, we have Erin Kuhl.
Good morning and aloha. My name is Erin Kuo and I'm calling in from Melbourne, Australia. So it's quite early for me here and there's nowhere else I'd rather be than with you all in the Big Island. So lovely to see you all and hear your stories this morning and the work you're doing for the community. I was a gymnastic coach and gymnast at Kona Aerials beginning over 30 years ago. And I've known Coach Nanette and her program for most of my life. What I know is that this program is a blessing and an asset to Kona and the Big Island community for its children, its families, and its future citizens. Gymnastics in the Kona Aerials program is more than a sport. It's an arena where children learn to trust themselves, to trust their coaches, to trust their teammates. There's nothing like taking a big physical risk to teach you to learn to trust your body, your instincts, and the people around you, guiding you as you learn. The kids learn to support one another, to cheer for one another, to comfort each other in competition and practice. They learn camaraderie and sportsmanship. They learn how to win with humility and to lose with grace. They learn the invaluable skills associated with trying something new, taking risks, failing, and persisting. Today, where so many of us as parents are terrified of the many risks our children face, Kona Aerials gives kids a space that's safe to take calculated risks, to learn what happens when things don't always go as planned, that you can get back up, that you can recover, that you can try again, that you can persist at something, and that you're stronger than you think. I personally have become who I am because of this sport, this program, and of course, because of Coach Nanette. Nanette has not just been a coach to me, she's been a mentor, a maternal figure, a role model, my boss and my friend. And it's not just me that she's played these critical roles for. She's done this for countless hundreds and thousands of kids and their families. She's been our extended family, and she's made us feel part of a bigger community. And it's because of programs like this and people like Nanette that children feel cared for, that they learn their purpose, and that they become who they're meant to be. This has been true for me. And what I learned from this program and Coach Nanette is that I had people coach and cheer for and invest in my development. And in turn, I've internalized a responsibility to give this back to others. It's always in my mind to find a way to be a coach and a teacher, a mentor, and to develop young people to give back more than I was given. So I hope with all the testimony the council hears that you'll understand how incredibly lucky the Big Island is to have Kona Aerials Gymnastics and Coach Nanette as part of your community. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Isla Mossman.
Aloha.
Aloha.
I'm Isla Mossman, and I am born and raised here in Kailua, Kona, Hawaii. I'm here to speak for Nanette and in behalf of Kona Aerials Gymnastics. Gymnastics was a huge part of my life. I started when I was 7 years old, and I was a competitive gymnast for 10 years with Coach Nanette. She was not just my coach. I put countless hours in the gym, 8 hours almost sometimes during the summers. We did, 4 to 5 days a week training. And not only is gymnastics a very physical sport, it's also a very mental sport too. And with Coach Nanette having your back and being there for you, I would have not grown into the woman that I am today. She was always there for me as a coach, as a mother figure, as a great mentor. She instilled so much, not, just on the physical end, but mostly on the mental end. I am a mother of 2. Both of my boys joined her program. I think it's very important to have gymnastics in the Big Island. And it's the only gym on the Kona side. I have learned so much life lessons, and I use them still today. At my age right now. And I would have not been where I am today without Nanette and her program. She opened her gym and also her heart to not only my ohana, but I know a lot of other ohanas in the community. She is very important to me today. I keep in touch with her. My boys still do her program. Especially in this day and age, I think it's very important to instill and have a sport for kids that are, just need that guidance. I have learned just so much in general, and I want to just thank Nanette for being here. And it's very important that Kona Aerials is still a part of this community, as it has been for over, 30 plus years. And it's an amazing sport, and it's an amazing facility. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the time. Moving on to Doug Scopus. Is Doug here? Do we have Doug? Are you on the line? Okay. Moving on to Janice Palma-Glenny.
Aloha, good morning. Let
Good morning.
me be, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good, thanks. Aloha, everyone. Let me be very, very clear here. Gymnastics is a great sport. The company that's doing this seems to have their heart in their business and doing a great thing, but this issue is not about gymnastics and it's not about them. This is strictly a land use issue. As far as the application, I'm a bit confused by it. It's unclear to me why another entity beside the landowners is asking for a permit to use ag land for commercial, non-ag related use, and why there are two companies engaged in the commercial activity on the site while only one appears to be applicant. In any case, these two companies are asking for forgiveness rather than permission. And it sounds like it's not the first time. In the section reason for request, they say they admit to another zoning discrepancy in their last location. All I can ask is, why don't they find a commercial space rather than intrude upon and try to skew existing land use law to pursue their sweet goals? It's they're just going about it backwards. As a member of the public, I have a right to know that land use law is being followed and enforced. I have a right to feel confident that my elected and appointed officials know when the laws are being breached and that they'll punish whoever breaks them and not let them continue to do that. Giving this or these entities a nod when they've been admittedly breaking the law would be like sending a cheating child back into the game with a nod and a kiss and maybe some candy. A gymnasium isn't the issue. This is about a blatant and knowing breach of laws written to protect the public, our local culture, the environment, our economy, and a hope that with the protection of agriculturally viable lands especially, we'll be able to feed ourselves now and into the future in a sustainable way. Land use classification and zoning are some of the most valuable tools we have as a community to protect our quality of life. And I believe strongly that those rules should be enforced unless there are dire, unforeseen circumstances that make exceptions necessary. This activity and use does not meet that criteria. Again, I'm confused as to why the landowner didn't clear this up by going through the proper land use channels before they allowed Kona Aerial Gymnastic Team to start using their property. After all, Bolton Inc. has been around the development block for decades. If this planning body is doing its job, it will give this request a flat no. They should find the entity in accordance with the law. I'm sorry to say, as wonderful as the people are, they've been breaking the law, and they should be required to abandon the structure immediately so they can find a legal place to carry on their business. And I wish them well, but not in this location. Mahalo.
Thank you for your testimony. Moving on to Leah Herbert.
Hi. Hi, my name is Leah Herbert. I live in Kona, and my almost 4-year-old daughter attends gymnastics each week at Kona Aerials Gymnastics. I have a bachelor's degree in elementary and special education and a master's degree in educational technology, and I taught junior high for 8 years. I'm testifying today as a member of the community in support of the special use permit for Kona Aerials Gymnastics. Enrolling children in gymnastics has many benefits for our community, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. And Kona Aerials is the only gymnastics training facility in Kailua Kona. There are countless research studies showing that kids that are involved in extracurriculars earn better grades, have higher self-esteem, and are less likely to get into trouble. Additionally, Kona Aerials goes above and beyond to implement and enforce COVID safety protocols in their open air facility, which I just want to loop back around and kind of point out why this location should have this exception is because in this emergency time of COVID-19, this facility provides open air, which is an extra layer of safety. So on top of all of the benefits that we already know exist in involving children in gymnastics, this is also a safe choice. So I just think that that's a really important thing to consider at this time. Personally, I can say that my daughter has really enjoyed attending gymnastics at Kona Aerials, and it's been a wonderful activity for her. And I feel safe sending her there, which is why she's not enrolled in too many activities, or we really don't even have many other choices. Luckily, she chooses gymnastics because it is open air. So she's inspired watching the older gymnasts practice and is showing dedication already. So it would be very sad if Kona Aerials had to close its door simply because of a permit issue. So I do not believe that that choice would be in the best interest of the community. So I'm asking that you please vote to approve the special permit for Kona Aerials Gymnastics today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the time. Next up is Joe Kunkel.
Good morning. So my name is Joe Kunkel. I've got a little bit different perspective than most on the gym. I first met Nanette Jafrida back in 1989 when she'd opened her first gym. She'd stopped by my first cabinet shop and asked me if I would build some things for her students, which I did. We donated to the program. Skip forward 10 years, I bought a commercial building. Nanette's gym was housed in it. She was recently divorced, had her two small 4-year-old twins in the gym at the time. I had to ask her out, I think, every day for an entire year before she agreed to date me once. And a few years later, I actually got to marry her. Nanette, I've always considered myself a moral and an ethical guy. My wife has taught me there's a whole nother level to this, and that's what she does. She's one of the most incredible people I've ever met, and what she does for those children, I can't even describe, and I'm sure you'll hear it over and over again. I'd like to more directly discuss what Janice had brought up earlier about the zoning issues. Until very recently, there was never a place for gymnastics facility to be in legally. It was not in the county code or charter anywhere. I know that because when I bought the building that her gym was in, we had to get a special permit just to allow her to stay in there so I could legally keep her in there. Nanette would have stayed in the same facility for 30 years. The only time she ever has to move is because the building has gotten sold and the new owners wanted to increase the rent or change occupancy or whatever. We've never been able to put her in a place that had the required height and space required to do gymnastics that wasn't in a commercial area, and gymnastics has never been allowed in a commercial area until recently. So industrial areas would not house her, commercial areas would not house her, obviously agricultural areas wouldn't allow her, so she's never had a place that she could be in before. Fortunately, Dan Bolton was willing to step up and give her a place when she lost her last place because they sold it. So I completely understand about the bending the rules part, but unfortunately, there was never a place that gymnastics was allowed here before until recently. That's about all I've got to say. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your testimony. Let's see, I see Doug Scopus has joined us.
Yes.
Doug, would you please raise your right hand?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes. Can you please raise your right hand? I'll swear you in. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth before the Leeward Planning Commission?
Yes, I do.
Okay, please go ahead with your testimony. You've got 3 minutes.
Okay, well, I've only Zoomed one other time, so pardon me for not getting in on time. My experience with Kona Aerials goes back a decade or longer. My daughter, Demetria, started in 2002 and had to stop in 2014 because she went up to HPA. I've got a granddaughter, Andromeda Eve Kealani Wong. She takes gymnastics in Arizona. My other granddaughter, Athena Ann Christine Owens, she takes gymnastics lessons, and she's just one. But it started with my retirement and me having a daughter, and we spent a lot of time at Kona Aerials. I was fortunate enough to listen to the other people, and they have done a much better job than I'm going to do. But I would tell you that after watching Nanette for 12 years, she's very dedicated to helping young people reach their goals. I'd ask that you grant this special permit to keep other kids in the future into programs like what you've been listening to. Thank you for your time. Let me know if there's any questions.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Moving on to Allison Alterman.
Hello. Sorry for any noise. I'm in my classroom. No. I'm a special education preschool teacher, so there's a lot going on. But I was a gymnast in middle school, so I was a little bit old when I started, but Nanette took me on, and I had a great experience there. She was so great to me as a gymnast, and I learned so much, and I loved it. So many people think that gymnastics is just kind of a kid's sport, but for me, it's a lifelong passion. I'm still involved. I still love doing gymnastics. And even though I have a full-time job, I still work there after school because it's just something I love. I love being in the gym, the environment. And so in high school, I started working for Nanette. And that was actually my first exposure to kids with special needs. And I learned so much about teaching and how to control a group of kids in a kind of potentially dangerous environment. And you just kind of grow up quickly in that scenario. But it was just an awesome experience for me. And I think what led me to go into the profession that I'm in as a special education teacher. So I would just like to put my support behind the gym and Nanette, and hope that this is passed. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony, and good luck in that room. Sounds like it's busy. Moving on to Katie Coleman. Is Katie Coleman here? Okay, we'll skip over to Councilmember Rebecca Villegas.
Aloha, everyone. My name is Rebecca Villegas, and I am the Hawaii County Council member for District 7. I live in District 7 and right off of Walua Road. I've had the opportunity to talk with or work with in some capacity most of you here on today's call. I'm here today. This is a really challenging one. Unfortunately, the landowner of this property and the issues surrounding this property have been one of the biggest concerns of the constituents in my district since I ran for office about 3 years ago. We are currently seeing higher rain flow, and the brownwater runoff that comes through this property is dumping silt on our reef ecosystems right outside of Tiki's, directly associated with this property and stream bed. I'm hopeful that each one of you has taken the time to read through the testimony sent by Carol Moran Fuller, in which you will see a long list of violations of the landowner with regards to the use and practices on this agricultural land. It's tragic in my mind. I've known Nanette since I was a little girl, and boy, I always wanted to be a gymnast in her gym. At a certain age, though, I was definitely going to be way too big for that. But I have seen a number of our keiki go through her program. She's an incredible coach, an incredible youth coordinator, and she has an incredible business. It's tragic and ironic that all of this has happened in this time frame where she lost a location, and it was very gracious and kind of the landowner, Mr. Bolton, to provide this space as an opportunity to continue the services of her business. Nobody wants the gymnastics to stop. Nobody wants her business to suffer, and nobody wants our children to lose access to such a great sport and activity. However, this is a complicated issue because the special use permit, it relates to this one business, but the property that the use permit is applying for has a very complicated history with its landowner. There are complications going back to 1999. There are issues The landowner has a history of disregard for our land use laws and a long list of violations and fines, along with a current and continued manipulation of a flood mitigation project that is widely believed in our community, unfortunately, to be a cover for a rock crushing business, which is an industrial use on agricultural land. The case is currently at the Hawaii Supreme Court waiting to be picked up. Unfortunately, it has not been. I was very hopeful that there would be some clarity coming from the Hawaii Supreme Court. But with some of the other issues that have come forward, that's been put on pause. The landowner has been generous to offer the ag structure, which was otherwise unpermitted for this kind of use, to be used by the gymnastics facility. I don't know if any of you have been to the site. It's not particularly safe. There are a lot of complications associated with the site. Unfortunately, this is a strategic manipulation of do something first and ask for permission later and have somebody else ask for the permission instead of the landowner, which makes it challenging for all of us to then listen to testimony from parents and Nanette as a business owner with an incredible reputation of serving our community. There is another gym that's being operated in this ag structure on this property that is fantastic, with community members benefiting greatly from open air workouts in this time of the Rona. However, none of it is legal and none of it was legal. And there's a history with this landowner of doing what he wants, when he wants, how he wants, and then coming back, and in this instance, having somebody else file for a special use permit.
Okay,
So,
I'll ask for you to just summarize since we've passed the 3 minutes. Yeah.
perfect. In summary, I recognize and respect that you're in a tough place on this one, but I ask that you look at the land use laws associated with this property, and should you decide to move forward, that more stringent stipulations be put on this landowner and for the improvement of this property to be in alignment with what they're asking for as a use on this property. And with that, I yield. So thank you for taking this up, and I'm considering those requests. Mahalo.
Thank you very much for your time. Moving on to Krista Donaldson.
Aloha, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Aloha, esteemed panel. I'm here to contribute my observations about the entrance to the land where this permit is in question. I am a garden teacher at Innovations Public Charter School right next to this property. I've observed land moving activities with a mix of concern and kind of a grotesque fascination. Over the years, workers have been busy, moving massive amounts of soil. Kona's gorgeous, fine, red gold being moved around. As a garden teacher, of course, I'm like, whoa, look at all of that soil. The land moving activities have been very assertive over the last 2 years. As somebody has already just talked about, the same time, Kona's rains have increased and Waiaha River has flowed and flowed big many times. The workers have created a soil berm across a completely exposed riverbed. They put a culvert this big in the middle of the berm for drainage. This man-made dirt berm is now the entrance road to the gyms. Just 2 rains ago, this culvert became easily blocked by debris, large trees, huge branches, huge boulders on the road. And the whole culvert was easily overwhelmed by the amount of water that was coming down the mountain from Kona's most ample, and at least the underground, cleanest water source in Kona. The water simply overtook the berm and created Kona's newest, most massive waterfall on the Makai side. It cascades in all directions over newly turned soil and takes unknown amounts of Kona's most beautiful red gold right with it. Over the last 2 years, I've seen giant excavators, the biggest excavators found on our island, in the middle of the riverbed, working on creating a berm while the river was flowing. I've observed workers just broadcast spraying the cane grass all over both sides of the rivers. I've seen the access road unpassable due to debris and rain. There is a massive green waste pile along the banks of the river. What happens when debris is deposited in the riverbed or when the river overwhelms the piles? I've witnessed bulldozers and excavators cleaning up, and I've started taking video and drone footage and pictures that depicted random rerouting of the river. 2 rains ago, a huge unmarked holding pond was apparent just a football field away from where these gyms are. Last rainstorm,
sorry, 1 second. You've hit the 3 minute. I'll give you an opportunity to quickly summarize.
I am concerned about the safety of this road. Does this landowner have permits to build roads for these 3 different river crossings? What happens when these roads again become overpowered by Waiaha River? I am also concerned about training our community to just drive over a riverbed when it's running. All of that gorgeous soil just runs down to Kahului Bay, where the reef is now brown. Teaching our community to just go around the debris and drive through a flowing river is irresponsible and contributes to the non-source pollution carried by Waiaha into Kahului Bay. At least, esteemed panel, please visit the site. Please see how this rerouting of our river has resulted. And I would like to please end by honoring the fact that Waiaha River is the gathering of waters that has, a lot of kupuna tell me, created a community here in Kona to begin with. I believe that it was Waiaha River that even gave Hawaiians here in Kona the word vai, wealth, water, and the word kanavai, law, sharing of the water.
Thank you. That's enough. That's the time that we've got. Thank you. Okay. Aloha. Appreciate the time. Last call for Katie Coleman. Has Katie Coleman come in? Okay. We will then move on to item 2. And the only testifier is Janice Palmaglini.
Aloha, I defer testifying at this time. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, aloha. Okay. Are there any questions from the commissioners to any of the testifiers today? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to close public testimony? Moved by Commissioner DeFranco. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Kanuha. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, none. The motion carries. Moving on to the new business section of the agenda. Item 1, the applicant is Kona Aerials Gymnastics Team Inc. Application for a special permit, SPP 21-000227, to legitimize the operation of a youth gymnastics and sport fitness facility and related improvements on approximately 2.3 acre portion of a larger 23.738 acre property in the state land use agricultural district. The subject property is located at 75-476 Wailua Road, approximately 700 feet east of its intersection with Queen Ka'ahumanu Highway, Waiaha First, Puapua'anui First, North Kona, Hawaii, TMK 37-5-017, parcel 044, portion thereof. Our staff presentation will be by Jessica Andrews.
Yes, hi, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair Batusik.
Maya, is there a?
Yeah,
have a
just
question?
Just before Jessica starts, I just want to announce to the testifiers that I'll be removing you from the meeting, and you can go ahead and watch the remainder of the meeting on the YouTube channel, and the URL to get to that is on our agenda. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. I'll be presenting the application for Kona Aerial Gymnastics, and I'm going to start by sharing my screen. So let me get that established here. Okay, can everybody see the introduction screen here?
Yep.
Great. So as stated, this is a special permit application for Kona Aerial Gymnastic Team, Inc. Okay, here's the location map. You can see the subject property in red. It is just Mauka of Queen Kaahumanu Highway in the North Kona district. The applicant is requesting a special permit to legitimize the operation of a youth gymnastic and sports fitness facility and related improvements on a 2.3 acre portion of a 23.8 acre parcel located in the State Land Use Agricultural District. Also requesting to convert the existing 12,600 square foot warehouse by obtaining all necessary permits for the proposed use. To construct 38 parking stalls, including 2 ADA stalls. To provide access to the permit area by a 12 to 15 foot wide, 1,000 foot long gravel driveway. And to operate the youth gymnastics facility Monday through Friday, 2 to 7:30 p.m. and Saturday 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. The sports facility will operate Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Summer programs will operate during summer school breaks from May to August with gymnastics classes held Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. and Tuesday, Thursday, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. And that is as proposed by the applicant. So this is the zoning map, and what you're seeing is the subject parcel outlined in red and the zoning of the parcel and the surrounding area. A1A is agricultural 1 acre, and that's the subject property, and some nearby darker green is that zoning. Also nearby to the on the lower part of your screen, there's RS10, which is residential single family. 10 acre, there's RS 7.5, residential single family, and RS 15, also residential single family zoning. And opposite on the Mackay side of the highway, there's agricultural 5, there's residential multifamily zoning, and there's some RS 7.5, which is also residential single family. So there's quite a varied amount of zoning in the surrounding area. The state land use is agricultural. As you can see, everything in green is agricultural, and nearby is also urban zoning to the south and to the west of the property. The property, according to the general plan LUPAG map, which is the land use designation, this is designated urban expansion. And just Mauka of the property is important agricultural lands, and to the west of the property is MDU, or medium density urban. So this is the site plan as proposed by the applicant. What you're seeing is a conceptual site plan. There's a vicinity map in the upper right, and the conceptual plan showing the existing warehouse structure. existing catchment tanks just to the west of the structure. There's existing access drive and proposed locations for the bathrooms. Jumping forward to the, again, conceptual site plan, the applicant has shown where the proposed restrooms are. And to the left on your screen is the space that's used by Kona Aerials, and to the right on your screen is the space that's used by Nakawana Foundation, and that's referred to as the fitness facility in the application, whereas the gymnastics facility is the Kona Aerials space. This is an aerial photograph of the site. This is the most recent aerial photograph that I could locate. It does not, it was taken in, you can see the imagery date on the bottom right. It was taken in June of 2019. So it unfortunately doesn't show the existing structure, which is of course there. But the structure is located where you see the green pin on the property. So it's, that's where the warehouse, existing warehouse structure is located. You can see the access drive kind of on the west side of the property. That's approximately where the existing access drive is located, and it adjoins Hualalai Road, which is on the upper part of the site plan or the photograph there. So the site photographs, there's a few here over the next few slides. These photographs show Hualalai Road. The left side shows looking west from the drive, from where the access drive adjoins Hualalai Road. And on the right side, you see looking east. Site photographs, these were taken earlier this year, so fairly recently. On the left, you're seeing a view at the existing entrance gate to the subject property. And this includes a view of the existing building on the adjacent parcel. So the warehouse structure that you're seeing in that left photograph is actually on a different parcel. So it's just Mackay of the subject property. On the right, you're seeing a view of the existing gravel driveway. And on the left in that photograph is the existing, is the subject property. So that's the structure that's currently used by Kona Aerials and the Nakawana Foundation. These are closer up photos of that structure that's currently in use. And these photographs show, you can see the warehouse building as it's currently being used, and you can see the restrooms that were built that are attached to the structure that are currently unpermitted. And yeah, so this just shows a few different views of that structure. The bottom right, you can see on the very far right of that photograph, you can see the existing water storage tanks. All that said, the Deputy Planning Director's recommendation is approval with conditions. And I did want to go over some revised conditions that were provided yesterday to the planning commissioners. I hope that all commissioners have received those revised conditions. These were proposed in order to clarify timing in response to a request from the applicant. And so I'll just go over that. Basically, condition number 5 fully replaces the condition. What you're seeing fully replaces the condition that was within the recommendation. Condition number 5 states prior to applying for a building permit, and the timing was modified to accommodate that prior to applying for a building permit. The original recommendation, I'm sure the commissioners can refer to the recommendation that was provided to you. But condition number 5 had stated that there was a 5-year time condition. So condition number 5 now begins prior to applying for building permit. And then the remainder of the condition is actually the same as was before for obtaining plan approval. Condition number 10 is stated that it should be within 5 years from the effective date of this permit, the applicant shall align the access driveway within the 60-foot wide future Kakalina Road extension alignment. This alignment shall be noted on all future plans submitted to the county and shall be kept clear of any permanent structures. And that was changed from the original condition 10, which had stated prior to certificate of occupancy. So this now is timed to provide 5 years from the effective date of this permit. And finally, condition number 17, there was an addition to essentially begin stating, with the exception of condition number 10, an initial extension of time for the performance of conditions within the permit may be granted by the by the planning director upon the following circumstances, and the remainder is the same. But that was in order to provide that condition number 10 may not obtain an extension of time. And that completes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions at this point. Commissioner DeFranco?
Yeah,
I'll stop sharing too. Sorry.
Thank you. I was wondering where the river is that they're talking about. You know, if you can show us where this water flood plain. I know everything seems like a river right now to me, but I know that we're having a lot of rainfall, and I really think we should look at this now. And I wasn't clear by your presentation where the river was. Can you show us a picture of where the river is?
Yeah, I'll go back to maybe the aerial photograph. I'm just going to start sharing screen again. And we'll go backwards here. So it's not going to be obvious in this photograph because it's not super detailed, but the access road that you're seeing, that is just Mackay of where, or towards the west side of the property, that goes through the drainage or the channel, which is the Waiaha channel.
You mean the bottom red line? Where do you mean exactly? Say that again.
I'm not sure if you can actually see my mouse here.
Yes, I see.
Okay, so this is the access drive. This is the driveway.
Yes.
And that goes through the drainage channel, or it's not actually, maybe a river would be, I'm not sure if that would be the proper terminology, but it's a flood zone.
Deputy Director Darrow, do you have something to add there?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, it might be good to bring up the flood map. I have it on my screen. I can share, but it's actually on page 16 of the applicant's application.
Picking up some background noise there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. This is the flood zone map that shows the subject property identified in blue, and then it shows the floodway. It shows the special permit area identified in a red square, and this is a large flood zone area. The applicant is currently conducting flood channel improvements to be able to channelize this flood zone, and that's a lot of the discussion about material and activity occurring on the property. But anyway, this kind of gives you a better idea of what's going on with the flooding on the property.
So Jeff, the flood zone is actually outside the special permit. I mean,
It's within the property, but it's outside the special permit area. The area,
okay.
The area that's not in blue is zone X.
Okay, but the driveway to get to the special use permit goes through.
Correct.
Through it.
There's
Okay,
going to be some requirements that the applicant will have to go through to be able to get that driveway permitted through that flood zone.
I see. So the excavators and the equipment that they're seeing in there are a permitted thing that Bolton is doing to mitigate the flood thing? Is that what I'm hearing? Or?
You know, there's been a lot of discussion on that, and there's been a lot of back and forth accusations that they're doing a stockpiling yard, a base yard, a quarry, but they do have an active grading permit for the flood channelization project. And so, you know, and currently that's what we look at.
So bringing this culvert in and putting the culvert there, that is being done under a permitted.
That's our understanding. I don't know, maybe Robin can address the extent of the channelization project. I would think it would be pretty extreme given the flood zone on the property.
Yeah. Commissioner DeFranco, the applicant, the property owner had put in a CLOMAR, which is a conditional letter of map revision with FEMA. So they have a permit for doing work in these flood zones. And yeah, it's a lot of material. The last application I saw, it overall was like over 100,000 cubic yards of material that they're deepening the channel. So they are aware that if they're gonna do work on the other driveway, you know, they're gonna have to either get another conditional letter, or they're gonna have to do what we call a no rise, where it's approved by an engineer. They have to hire a licensed civil engineer that's saying that the work they're gonna do isn't gonna create any additional rise in the flow of, you know, the flood waters.
Commissioner Yates.
Yeah, I'm concerned with all of this talk going back and forth and reading, you know, the violations, et cetera, et cetera. It says that they shouldn't be doing any of these things. So we're talking just disregarding all of these things. There was, you know, all of the, you know, the letters that said they shouldn't be doing this. And my big concern for this is that little gym looking place over there is so close to where the water could go by, and it looks so unsafe. And I mean, I'm not against the gym or anything like that. I'm just thinking, is it safe? I mean, are we allowing this person to do whatever, even though they've been cited on numerous occasions and we're still looking into it? I'm kind of confused about this.
At this point, if we have questions for the county staff, you can ask and try to get some answers from them, but I think we'll have to hold off on discussions on it until we have a motion on the floor. Okay. But if you do have any questions, now is definitely the time to ask. And then we will have a presentation by the applicant as well, and you can ask more questions then.
Well, my first question, it says to cease and desist. Mm-hmm. But it's continuing. So they were allowed to do all of these things without any permitting? That's my question. I mean, how come?
Good question. Is there an answer for that question, Deputy Director?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Normally in a situation like this, believe me, this isn't the first time this has happened in the county, and it's not going to be the last. We issue numerous zoning violations throughout the county. And one of the requirements is to cease and desist. One thing that wasn't put in the NOVs for this particular one is the alternative. You know, there has to be an alternative, and that wasn't put in these NOVs, which should have been put in. And that is that you either cease and desist or you get permitted, and you go through the process. These particular landowners and applicants had received the violation notice. They've worked with the county, they've submitted the fine payment. They have actively hired a consultant and have actively submitted a special permit to be able to try and get this permitted through the county. If this process does not work for them, then at that point, they obviously have to relocate. But we allow, except for extreme situations, we didn't feel this was, quote, an extreme situation that was affecting a number of people in a negative manner. We felt that this could be operated during the time that they could go through this process. We're finally at that place now where they're trying to get permitted. In regards to the building being where it's located, regardless of whether it was a building for a recreational facility or an agricultural building, it did go through a building permit and was allowed to be built in the location it's at. So it's if they had concerns regarding the flooding to that building, that wouldn't have been permitted at that point.
Commissioner Armbruster, thanks for your patience.
Sure, of course. I had a couple questions. I don't know if this would be for Robin or the planning department, but I understand that there's a grading permit in place and that they're actively working on modifying the floodways, but is the stormwater mitigation in compliance, or have y'all found or heard any evidence that the accusations about, you know, boulders and flooding onto other properties, is that actually going on? Do we know?
Yeah, they do have their BMPs. Our inspectors go out occasionally to check to make sure. But I think regarding that major flooding event that had brown water in the bay, I mean, there was a lot of water coming from a lot of additional properties, is my understanding from our inspectors.
Okay. And then the access, is that, I understand that they're improving that and that they're going to be altering it, but last time I was there, it's just kind of like a sketchy dirt driveway. Is that something that your traffic department would consider appropriate for commercial use?
We don't determine the type of material for commercial property. I don't know, Jeff, does the planning department dictate that?
When it comes to a special permit, we have flexibility. In this particular case, we are asking for a paved driveway access as part of the approval in condition number 10.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner DeFranco.
So I wanted to just clarify. So this is for 2.3 acres within a larger piece of property. I have couple questions there. So I'm assuming that these people have some kind of long-term lease with Bolton to establish this and to go through this special use permit. And number two, are there plans on the table for what they're doing with the rest of the property? Is that somewhere in the plan?
That's something we'll probably have to hear from the applicant after their presentation.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for the county? Okay, I've got a couple of questions. The building itself, from the material, it indicates that it has a building permit, but there has been no inspections. Is that correct?
Yeah, I can address that, Chair Vatusik. Yes, it has a building permit that was issued, and it was issued to be an ag warehouse with no electrical or plumbing, and the final inspection has not been completed.
Have any of the inspections been completed?
It's my understanding that the foundation inspection was final or was approved, but that further inspections have not been.
There's been no further inspections. Okay, and then
And just to clarify further a little bit more, of course, the current use still is going to require yet another building permit, so it will all have to be redone. So it would require what's called a change of use building permit. So they would have to redo everything to current code if it doesn't already meet current code, and the whole series of inspections would happen again.
Okay, so basically we need a whole new permit for the building, including the portion that's already been permitted, which will require bringing everything up to code, because I'm assuming they've got electrical at this point if they're having classes in there. Everything will have to be brought into code. They'll have to, after the fact, permit all the stuff that they've done in there. And then have to get a final inspection in order to get a certificate of occupancy. Is that right?
Correct. That's right.
And does the county allow commercial use of a building prior to certificate of occupancy?
That is typically not something that I've seen happen, but it's going to be up to the discretion of the county, of the permitting agency, which would be DPW.
So it's DPW's decision to grant the certificate of occupancy, right?
That's right.
Okay, building division. Do we have conditions in this special use permit that indicate that there will be no commercial use of this building until after a certificate of occupancy is accepted from DPW?
Jeff wants to jump in. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yep.
So again, this is one of those situations that we have the cart before the horse. And, normally the horse goes before the cart. People come in, they get their permit, they get the approval, they get certificate of occupancy, and then they occupy. At this particular time, this building has been occupied. It's actively being used for a particular use. They are trying to come into compliance. All of these conditions are bringing them, if approved, would be able to bring them into compliance. That would, once the special permit allows them to be able to operate as a permitted use this particular facility, they would be able to operate with the understanding that they got to go through this process within a particular amount of time and get these permits and certificate of occupancy. I believe it was 1 year with the possibility of 1 year time extension. If they don't comply with that, they either come back to the commission or the permit is not valid. They wouldn't be able to continue utilizing that facility under this permit.
My next question is the access. Is there a reason why the access is not included in the boundaries of the special management or the special use permit application?
Are you referring to the square footage calculation of what the permit area is?
Right. Well, the graphic that was shown on the flood zone map shows a rectangular 2.3 acres project area for the special permit, but the access to that area is also part of that commercial use. And I'm just wondering why that's not included in the special permit project area.
Yeah, I guess the property map that you're referring to, which shows the flood zone, is referring to the proposed use, the area of the proposed use. But I understand your question, that the driveway perhaps could be considered part of that required access for the proposed use.
Yeah. As that's a part of the commercial use of the property, the access to the location that's being used, I think would be pretty relevant. And one of the conditions is that the access be relocated to the future alignment of Kakalina Road.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a map that you have that shows the existing location of the road and the proposed relocated location?
One of our maps that I showed in the presentation does show the existing corridor, the road corridor. I can share a slide. Give me a minute here.
Maybe I can just chime in real quick, Chairman Batusik.
Please, yes.
Yeah, this particular road, there are times that we require an applicant to to include the driveway access to a particular use. That's usually when the driveway is specific to that particular use. In this particular case, this road was actually going to be used in a much bigger capacity, not just for the special permit. Our condition in there is that this road become compliant to the requirements of the Kona CDP for that particular alignment. So it will hopefully in the future be utilized as one of these collector roads for compliance with the CDP.
So do they have to build the road to a dedicable standard, the Kakalina extension? Is that a part of this?
Not to that standard, but at some point it could be utilized as as long as that alignment's in it, it can be built to a higher standard in the future, especially when the remainder of the property comes in for what they're proposing. We wouldn't require dedicable standards for this road for a simple special permit. But if they came in for a change of zone and a subdivision, at that point, we would consider it.
So this shows just kind of a simple graphic of where the Kakalina street, it currently exists just to the north of the property. And on the aerial map there, sorry, the aerial photograph, you can see the road exists here. And so it would need to be aligned. The access drive would need to be aligned with that road corridor.
And was that portion of the required improvements factored into SHPD's review of the project area? As if you're looking at using an existing gravel road to access an existing building, there's not going to be much impact on historic sites. But if you're talking about relocating the road to a previously undeveloped portion of the property, that's something entirely different. And if we're conditioning that, then I would like to know if that has been reviewed. And it's unclear from the letter from SHPD exactly what was submitted to them and reviewed by them.
SHPD reviewed the application and the supplemental information as existed in about July of this year.
Did that include location of the realigned driveway? Because they may not know that was part of it since it's a condition now coming from us.
They probably don't know that. That's correct. I think you're correct on that point, because that was a condition that we have decided is important to the planning department. And it's something that wasn't originally proposed by the applicant.
Can you, Jessica, can you stop sharing? I can bring up the actual CDP map that shows the alignment real quick. So Mike, I'm sorry, Chairman Vatusik, in regards to SHPE review, when the applicants, are you able to see that? Not yet, huh? There we go. So the project site is in this location, and this is the Kakalina right away. Here's Hualalai Street. This is across Hualalai, coming through the property, and then eventually connecting up with the existing subdivision to the south. In regards to review of the roadway, I mean, there's two ways we can do it. We can do prior to construction. We can add to a condition that prior to construction of that realignment that they receive approval from SHPE. But the other factor is that they're going to have to get a grading permit for that road, and they will have to be reviewed through SHPE for that particular permit. So there's two different avenues there. But yeah, I don't think that through our review, we were the ones that requested this after the submittal of the application. So SHPE would not have known about this.
Okay. Commissioner Armbruster.
Is Robin, is that area part of the grading plan that's underway? Because if so, it probably would have been reviewed that way, right?
We have them review because maybe the depth is going to be different. So it would go back to SHPE again for a specific review of the new road.
Okay.
Are there any other questions for the county? If not, we can proceed with the applicant's presentation, and we can take more questions after. Okay. With the applicant, let me hold on one second. Okay, we get the applicants. Would you please raise your right hand so I can swear you in? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on the matter now before the Leeward Planning Commission?
I do.
Thank you. Would you please state your name and the town that you live in?
John Pippin, I live just outside of Punaka'a. And before we get into our presentation, I'd like to just take a quick poll, see if everyone's comfortable timeline-wise. If anyone wants a bathroom break, I know it's important to be comfortable in this process, so I'm just putting it out there.
What was that?
If anyone would like a restroom break at this point before we get into another long discussion.
Anybody? Okay, looks like we're good to go.
Okay. Thank you much. Aloha, Chair Vatusik, Planning Commissioners. Thank you very much for your service to your communities and the dedication to this process. I was especially glad to hear more about your backgrounds and how you've come to be where you are. Big mahalos to the Planning Department staff and Deputy Director Darrow. We really appreciate the favorable recommendation and respectfully request your consideration to approve the requested special permit. While the pandemic has disrupted pretty much all aspects of daily life and served as a new source of stress and anxiety in local families, one thing that has emerged as a powerful source of positivity and resilience is physical activity. So we have an opportunity here to help out two Hawaii-based nonprofits dedicated to providing West Hawaii with facilities and training to foster personal growth, health, and wellness. The applicants have struggled to find appropriate facilities for their specific needs, and this site is particularly well suited to the proposed use as it's centrally located in town and has the appropriate indoor space for the safety of the participants. Not only do these programs benefit the health and wellness physically, which is crucial in times like these programs foster community. They teach valuable life skills and promote good mental hygiene for their participants. I'd also like to address a typo in the application regarding the number of classes held at Kona Aerials, the gymnastics use. Originally, it was written as 20 classes per month, and that should read 20 classes per week. So my apologies for any confusion there. And in listing the details of the requested use, we wanted to be conservative and allow for some modest growth over the current levels. And while current enrollment at Kona Aerials is 25 team participants and 75 recreational participants, we listed in the permit application, the request was for 40 team participants and 96 recreational participants. And those more conservative numbers were used to project for traffic impacts and the like. A lot of testimony focused on the history of this property. And while it is relevant, I think we should really focus on the requested use and its potential impacts evaluated against the criteria that are established for looking at special permits. Are they unusual, reasonable requests? Are they going to impact surrounding properties adversely? And are they consistent with state land use law? And I think we'll see that each of those boxes are ticked for this application. And there are conditions that would help to remediate and ameliorate some of those past complaints against this property. So with that in mind, I'll introduce the other representatives for this project. Ms. Logan is here as a representative of the landowner. Mr. Elisaga is here representing Nakawana Foundation. And they're mainly to field questions should they arise. They're not planning on presenting anything formally. Ms. Jafrida, sorry, would like to say a few words to the commission, and then we'd be happy to answer any questions. But I will confirm that we have all reviewed the conditions of approval and will comply with those going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gufrida, would you like to say something?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for your time this morning and for your consideration in this meeting and in this special use.
Actually, before you go in, just for our record, would you mind just stating your name and the town that you live in?
Yes, my name is Nanette Jafrida, and I live in Kealakekua.
Thank you. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Okay. Thank you again for your time and for your consideration. As I said, my name is Nanette Jafrida. I am the founder of Kona Aerials Gymnastics. We started Kona Aerials in 1989 here in Kona. We have serviced thousands of athletes, created many champions, brought home state, national, and regional titles. Many of our athletes have received college scholarships, not only for gymnastics, but for cheer, for diving, and even track and field. We even had one young lady, Shantessa Palma. She made the national team in 2004 and represented Kona very well. I'd like to tell everyone that we instill in our athletes that this is not just about gymnastics, that when you're an adult, no one really will care how many times you could flip or twist in the air, but they're really going to care about the kind of person you have become. So integrity is the cornerstone of our training at Kona Aerials. The sport of gymnastics is just the vehicle we have chosen to help children become successful adults that are also community contributors. We instill in our athletes that training with integrity will teach them discipline, focus, and dedication, not only to their sport, but to themselves, their family, and their community. We teach them to deal with being judged, to deal with disappointment, but still continue to train, knowing that they can always reach their goals. They learn to set goals, how to manage their training time to achieve their goals both in and out of the gym. We encourage them to be proud of small achievements and to continue to work on their long-term goals. They learn to never give up. They learn that falling is part of the process of succeeding. They learn that the fall doesn't matter. What matters is how you get up and step forward. Our athletes learn that success is not achieved overnight. It takes hours and hours, years and years of hard work and practice to create a champion. They learn that winning is not always the scoreboard. It's about achieving your personal goals, doing the best you can at that moment. They learn to support each other, be good teammates, gracious in defeat, and humble in success. They are given the opportunity to make lifelong friendships, create memories that will last a lifetime, to be proud of their achievements, small or large, and to always be proud of themselves. These are the skills that will carry over into their adulthood and service in any relationship they choose to be in. It's also the foundation of good community contributors. I just would like to add, one of the issues that I keep hearing is going commercial space. Gymnastic schools require like 18 to 23 foot ceilings. I've never seen a commercial space outside of a large department store to have that. So it's never been, I've never been able to go into a commercial space. There's never been one that can facilitate our needs. And Mr. Bolton stepped up for us and created this great building for us to continue our work in Kona and continue to help nurture the community and the children. And I really hope you take all of this into consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anything else that the applicant would like to add?
I think we're prepared to answer any questions the commission may have now. Thank you.
Commissioners, are there any questions for the applicant? Commissioner DeFranco?
Yeah, a couple questions. One, do you have like a long-term lease with Bolton to be doing this? I mean, this is a huge commitment on both parts.
Our intent is for this to be our permanent home.
So you have some kind of written thing there then with him about that being?
Yes, we do.
Okay, and then, so this is for 2.3 acres of a very large parcel. Is there a plan to do some kind of other development on there, or can you say, or?
I really don't know if there's plans to do any more development.
It felt like listening to Mr. Darrow speak that, because we're talking about a road access that road would be used for other things, like maybe a subdivision. I'm just asking this question because I'm trying to understand the relationship of this piece of land to the surrounding land into a floodplain, and how that relates to our community. And maybe you can't answer that, but maybe somebody in the county can. I don't know.
As far as I know, I don't believe there's any plans on doing a subdivision, but I'm not the landowner.
John, would you like to respond?
Yes, thanks, Chair Batuzek, and thank you, Commissioner DeFranco, for your question. I had brief discussions with the landowner about their master plan for this area, and it's not very far along. So we're not engaged to do any further planning outside of the special permit. And to my knowledge, they don't have firm plans for additional developments.
Okay, and so where your special use permit is right above Innovation School, is that right? It's above there. And to the south of the special use, there's like a road is there a road access that's going to be used by you possibly in the future on the south side?
Yes, again, thanks for the question. There are 3 separate flags for lots to the south of the subject property. And there are easements that allow for that paved access and water line to cross that area. We indicated that area for potential emergency access, given that the proposed main access does cross through the floodplain. So yes, those are flag lots serving those properties to the south.
And that would also be used for innovation schools if they needed an evacuation too?
Potentially, yes. I'm not sure. We didn't consult with them.
Okay, so this floodplain, I mean, there's innovation school. We can see those buildings are there. This is a school. This has been permitted. This seems safe by everybody in the community that this is going on there. So it's just directly above that. Here's this.
I think Innovations is actually located about a half-mile north.
Oh, it's north. So what am I looking at below?
There's a church there.
A church?
Yes.
Okay, and those buildings there where the church is right now, that they're not being affected by the flood plain or anything, is Jeff? I'm sorry, Mr. Darrow.
Yeah, if I could chime in, Commissioner Vatusek. I think the buildings you're referring to, just Mackay, is that what you're talking? Those are actually part of the applicant's buildings for agricultural uses on their separate property, just Mackay. There's a church that was approved through a special permit in 2019 on the property to the south, which I believe has not been constructed yet. That road that we're speaking about for the Kona CDP is going to go from the north of the property across Hualalai, come across the applicant's property, and eventually hook up to Pualani subdivision. That's the proposed alignment in the CDP. Innovation School is actually a little north, as Commissioner Vatusek said. We recently also had another school come in between Innovations and the applicant's property on the other side of Hualalai. So a lot of activity in this particular area right now.
Right, I think we looked at that one too, that school, for that approval. Okay, so the two ag buildings that are there now, it's used for storage? Or
So those are on a neighboring property, and we didn't really evaluate, their uses or impacts from this use, as their agricultural nature, and also managed by the same owner.
Okay, Commissioner Yates, you had your hand up also. Do you have any questions for the applicant?
Oh, well, my question was just if the aerial gymnastics, if they're, if they felt that I guess because they don't really have any other option and they're given an option to have their gymnastics, bless you, have their gymnastics there, they feel comfortable about being there, that no great traffic and in and out or any of those things that are going to affect the neighbors. And if they're going to be in a position where the neighbors are not going to be very happy. So if all of that's been, they've looked at that and talked to the people, and if they're okay with it, and as well as the gymnastics folks, that they're in a safe location. That was my question. If they feel all of that has been taken care of and they feel safe being there.
I think that's the best question for Ms. Gufrida. Do people feel safe driving across the property? Do people feel safe in the building that hasn't been inspected?
As far as I know, everyone does. We feel real safe there.
Commissioner Kanuma?
Aloha. I have a couple questions for both of you, John, and the representative of Bolton. that timeline, when do you guys think that you guys will have the parking lot done, the ADA compliancy, and also be able to come up with code with what has been done for the building's permitting process as a timeline?
Thank you, Commissioner Kanuha. We're given in the conditions 1 year to get final plan approval and to secure and implement any building permits that would be required to change the use and to bring the as permitted or as built bathrooms into compliance. I think that is ambitious, but with the addition of the administrative 1 year additional time to get those completed, I think 2 years should be plenty of time. And just to speak a little bit more about the parking, we've shown a little less than 40 spots on this conceptual site plan, and that's why it is conceptual. There will be revisions that will be required through the plan approval process. They'll evaluate against code how many parking spaces are required. That will influence how many ADA parking spaces are required, and then that will be implemented through those building permits. And so I hope that answers your question. Yeah, we feel like 1 year may be a little ambitious. If we hit the ground running really hard, that may be feasible, but 2 years seems to be definitely doable.
Okay, and also I know just kind of with Mr. Darrell's and also the planning director's recommendation, looking at the Kakalina Drive extension, what would happen to the previous road that was in there? There are those conditions that are in there. You know, I see on 10 and 17, there is a timeline with that extension.
So you mean the current existing access drive? It would probably be worked over and incorporated into the design of the new and improved realigned access. They would have to account for grading that into appropriate slopes and stable structures to support the new roadway.
You know, if the property, you know, both in the property owners are looking at also mitigating some of that runoff of water there that would come through, because opening up another road, there would be you know, there would be a lot more water moving through there rather than vegetation, you know, taking it back in. Do you know if that's been talked about, and has that been discussed about?
So,
you know, moving forward?
Yes.
I know, I see there's that grading, you know, you guys do have that grading permit that's in there. You know, I visited the site. I think it's a great thing for the kids. There are concerns for our community, which just those, you know, there's a couple different concerns that I see, but you know, that these are some questions that have been on my mind and I do want to ask.
Yes, thank you again for the question. And I feel those concerns strongly too, that everything would be done in a proper manner with the proper permitting processes. We've heard about the CLOMAR, the conditional letter of map revision that the landowner has sought for the drainage improvements on the property. The grubbing and grading permits, new grubbing and grading permits would be required. And if any of that work is in the flood zone, I'm sure it will also have to comply with Chapter 27 and any requirements of FEMA for their floodways. So there are many different layers of permitting that would come into play when that section is realigned and permitted. Best management practices would have to implemented and inspected, as DPW alluded to earlier.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Armbruster.
Hi there. So I had a couple questions. One is there seem to be multiple parties involved here. Obviously, there's the landowner, there's Kona Aerials, there's the other gem. And Kona Aerials, y'all are taking this on yourself. I'm just concerned because there are other parties involved. You're making commitments and I don't know how to phrase this. How are we, if we allow this to go forward, how are we to be sure or comfortable that these other parties that aren't party to this agreement also, like, I know it was kind of mentioned that there was a lease involved or there was a long-term commitment, but I'm just a little bit worried that there are things that y'all won't be able to fulfill that are being asked in this special use permit. Could y'all speak to that a little bit, please?
Thank you, Commissioner Armbruster. I know your comment or your question was directed mostly to Kona Aerials, but I personally have followed up on the conditions of the special permit with the other parties, with the landowner, with Nakawana. They understand them. They don't have any issues with also themselves committing to these conditions. So I hope that addresses your question. If you did have more follow-up, I'm sure Ms. Jafrida will.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just ask Deputy Director, he got his hand up if you'd like to add something there.
Yeah, if I could, thank you, Chairman. Commissioner Brewster, normally if the applicant is identified in a permit, that's who's responsible for compliance for those conditions. If they have some sort of agreement outside the permit, we always look to the applicant for compliance. There are times that the applicant will change and will receive information to the department requesting a change of the identification of the applicant. And then we follow up with them. But at this time, Kona Aerials Gymnastics Team Inc. is what we would be looking to as the entity for compliance.
Thank you. And Kona Aerials, y'all understand that and you're comfortable taking responsibility for that?
Yes, we do understand that.
Okay. And as Mr. Darrow mentioned a while ago, this is a little bit backwards in how we normally process things. And normally the reward for complying with all of this is that you get your certificate of occupancy and you get to open, but y'all are already there. So I'm just curious what sort of commitment you can offer us that this is, you understand the seriousness of this, and we certainly want your students and your children and everyone in the community to be able to take advantage of this, but we want it to be used in a safe and compliant way.
So yes, thank you. I'll start off. Part of this is in the background of Kona Aerials previously having a special permit for another property. They were under the false impression that permit followed their business and didn't remain with the property. So that was part of what led us to the situation where we're coming in and asking after the fact for permission for this use. I'm sorry, there was a second part to your question that I'm spacing on right now. Commitments.
Right. I mean, I'm not trying to imply that anyone has any intention of being deceptive, but there's also, you're already there and you're already operating, and the certificate of occupancy is just sort of a piece of paper at this point because you're already doing what that should allow you to do.
I think in this case, the surrounding community that has shown to be very observant and critical of the actions on this property can serve as that insurance of compliance. If they notice that something isn't according to these conditions, they can call the planning department, make their complaint, and that will set things straight. But I can assure you now, we're going into this fully committed to comply with the conditions as they're written.
Commissioner Yates.
So am I understanding that the Kona Aerials is like under a lease or a contract from this person who who actually is, I guess, the owner. So from there, then they're able to do all of the things that need to be done on the Kona aerials. Is that what it is? They have a lease or they're contracted or somehow, so they're responsible and going to be the ones to follow up and making sure that all of the, you know, T's are crossed and the I's are dotted.
I can speak. I believe the landowner and myself are both on the same page to get this done.
You have that in writing?
Not really, but we have a
I guess what I'm trying to determine is that, you know, after we go through all of this, and I don't know who will ultimately be responsible to, you know, get, I mean, I'm sure your heart is right where you're talking. And, but I'm saying that, you know, as time goes on, you know, there's a lot of things that need to be done. And if you're comfortable, well, not even comfortable, are we going to go through all of this and find out that, you know, that you can't do it, or after a length of time has gone by, we're going to go through this all over again because something didn't happen?
Well, I hope that that's not the case.
Yeah, but I'm saying, do you have all of this in writing so that you will be able to have something to fall back on and get this thing up and going?
Okay, what I do know is that because I'm the applicant, I'm the one responsible. I'm the one the county's going to look at. That's what I do know. So I'm willing to take on that obligation.
Well, for the other commissioners or anyone, I'm just really confused because I'm trying to figure out if Kona Aerials is not the owner of this property, do they have some kind of written agreement that this is something they will pursue and see to fruition, I guess?
Right. Does Kona Aerials have the authority to construct these required condition improvements on the landowner's property? That's a very good question.
I have been working with the landowner on these issues. John and I have been in contact with him. I believe Christy is on this call. She could back that up. The landowner and I are willing to do these things and get this done. Yes.
Yes, and again, I did confirm with the landowner. They are aware of all of the conditions that are being imposed on this and agree with them.
So then why not something in writing? I mean, just to cover yourself, you know, Kona Aerials, because that's a lot of heart and a lot of work going into it. And I think it's wonderful, but I'm just saying that concerned about that, and hopefully that it will have, you know, but don't you think it should be in writing?
As far as I'm concerned, it's in writing with the county. I already, you know.
But is it, I mean, to follow up on a question, we stated earlier that there is a lease agreement between Kona Aerials and the owner. Does the lease agreement provide for tenant improvements? Is the question. Is there an answer for that?
I'm not really sure. I'd have to look at that. I'm not really sure. I'm not comfortable answering that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd perhaps like to ask if the similar level of scrutiny between of an agreement between a leaseor and a leasee is applied to all special permits kind of uniformly. This is a private matter between the landowner and Kona Aerials.
Commissioner DeFranco?
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit because I've gotten a special use permit and I'm on Kamehameha School's lands. So for me to apply for a special use permit, I have to have in writing from Kamehameha Schools that this is being approved and that is okay for it to happen. So definitely something between the Bolton, who are the owners of the land, and through Kona Aerials would have to be put through the county special use permitting process. This, at least that's what I went through then. But, you know, I agree with Commissioner Yates too. I mean, and Commissioner Armbruster, this to redo, you know, this big, huge thing to a gymnasium, I can't even imagine what the costs are in complying with a building permit for this thing, for the usage change. That's a big monetary commitment. Of course, you're a nonprofit, so you have a board of directors who is voting on this and is making sure that it is, you know, going forward in the right way. But you know, we're asking these questions, you know, to protect you and to make sure that the commitments going forward with the level of investment that and fundraising that you're going to have to do to put this forward, you know, that it stays in place. Because when I asked you the question, you said this was your forever home. This is the impression I'm getting. This is the forever home for what you're doing. And all of us want to see something like this happen in the community. We are, you know, we want this for the kids. We appreciate what you've done over all these years. This isn't why we're asking these hard questions. We're trying to make sure that as this goes forward, because these are big questions with floodplains and mitigation things. And I think that Bolton has a lot of resources that could make this a great fit. I mean, I think that they have the ability to make this work for you. But I just want to make sure too that the commitments are there. Thank you.
Commissioner Kanuha.
Just kind of following up on Commissioner DeFranco, what she just kind of put forward. Would you guys be open to, if this was to be approved, you know, I would say a 30-day or 60-day agreement between the landowner and your guys' self, just to see something moving forward. And also, you know, having him involved in this process. Obviously, you guys have an agreement, but that agreement could take place. I don't know if that's in the context of what we're talking about, but that's something that I see, you know, having his foot down on the ground as well and moving things forward.
I think to Jeff, Mr. Darrow, I think you could speak to this, because the landowner has to sign off on a special use permit, don't they?
Correct. And
It did. Yes. That's in the application process. The landowner has signed off on the special permit application, so they're totally on board with that.
My understanding would be that they would also have to sign off on any building permit for the property, and obviously any planning change the application for if this special permit was approved. And you know, I understand the concerns of the commission. It actually is a good concern for the applicant. It's not a bad thing. They're just concerned. You know, there's all kinds of things that are going on that people brought up, and they are concerned. They want to make sure that you have a valid agreement with the landowner to be able to proceed with any type of condition approval that you need to do. And I agree. I would think that you folks would already be in that, but if you're not, I think it would be appropriate to definitely, you know, being that this is going to be a venture that if approved, you're going to be there for quite some time, that you get in some sort of legal agreement with the landowner. That's just, I don't know if it's appropriate for us, for the commission to actually condition that, but I think it's definitely a concern that's brought up and made clear.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think that a lot of this is coming from the commissioner's desire to understand whether the conditions that are being put in place will be carried out. And I think that the questions are very appropriate in that they want to know who's going to do these things that are being posted as conditions, which are going to be very expensive conditions. And given the history on the project of non-compliance, we want to know that will these conditions be met, by who will pay for it, and when. And I think those are very reasonable questions to ask in considering whether or not to grant this approval. So the retrofit of the building, who will pay for that?
That is outside of my scope to get into the matters between the applicant and the landowner on those financials, so I can't answer to that.
Okay. Can the applicant answer that?
We have been working on those details and we are prepared to invest in this.
So is Kona Aerials going to be, I mean, are you going to be paying out of pocket for the improvements to the facility?
I believe the landlord and I will be working out some deals to make sure this gets done and that I abide by what the county needs me to abide by.
And the driveway improvements, relocating and paving and regrading the access driveway, is that something Kona Aerials is going to pay for, or is that the landowner that's going to pay for it?
I believe we're going to be sharing the cost.
Be a shared cost. And again, you understand that we issue these permits with the understanding that they will be done. We'd be issuing a permit saying that you will carry these things out. And so for us, a big part of being comfortable and approving it is being comfortable in the fact that it will be done. And I think that if we have a clearer indication of where that's coming from, would be helpful.
Chairman Gulasek, excuse me, this is Darren Elislaga from the Nakavano Foundation. I can speak.
Hold on for 1 second. Would you mind putting your video on, and I'll swear you in if you're going to provide testimony?
Yeah, let me see if I can do that. My bandwidth is kind of slow. Camera.
Well, you've got that little button feature. You can just put your hand up on that, and we can swear you in that way. Raise hand. Press the raise hand.
Where is raise hand? Hold on.
And if I may, real quick, Mr. Chair Vatuzik, while Darren works on his technology, whenever conditions are proposed for any discretionary permit, be it a special permit, be it a SMA permit or a rezone, there's a certain level of trust and a leap of faith that you as commissioners have to present, because there are no guarantees in life. You've seen in many cases, unfortunately, developments don't turn out as they're proposed, and they have to come back before you to make modifications. So that's all kind of built into the process. There are allowances for administrative time extensions on some of these items, but the bigger items are strict 5-year time limit. And if we don't meet that, then we'll be back before you in 5 years.
Thank you very much for that. The key word there is discretionary, and it is up to our discretion to determine what's appropriate. I appreciate your time. Darren, go ahead. Please raise your right hand, state your name and the town you live in.
My name is Darren.
I messed that up. Sorry. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth before the planning commission matter today?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now you can state your name and the town you live in.
Awesome. My name is Darren Elisaga, and I live in Kailua Kona, Hawaii.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So speaking to the improvements that we plan to make, out of my experience in the small space that we occupy, I have seen over the year that the landowner has already made a lot of improvements moving in that direction. So when we talk about whether or not, you know, and Nanette as well, whether or not the landowner will actually, or who will be responsible for this, you know, we've been working on these things already. So it's not something that is at a standstill that we're gonna all of a sudden, because of conditions, attempt to start. From what I understand and working with Mr. Bolton, these things are already in effect. And even in the space that we occupy, we know that there's a lot of things that aren't permitted and need to be approved. And those improvements have already been worked on or are being worked on, and he is actually paying for a lot of it. So when Annette says that she is in close talks with the owner and he agrees, you know, although we would be taking the responsibility for these things, it is already in motion. So we're trying to be proactive, even without the permit. It's not like we were just operating and all of a sudden we need a permit. We knew these things are coming up. So alongside with the landowner, we were already taking proactive steps to accomplish these things. So I don't know if that helps. As far as a written agreement goes, like Nanette, we're also hoping to make this our permanent home as well. So with that being said, I think as Chairman Darrow had explained in the previously, you know, it's the cart coming before the horse, right? So we as well, being lessees, didn't want to commit to something long term unless we had a chance at getting this permit approved. So even though there might not be something exactly in writing, we do have that commitment. As you know, Commissioner Kanua was talking about earlier about putting something in writing. I think that's totally possible. We could easily work that out, because this, like I said, these are discussions that we as applicants have had with the landowner, you know, over the time that we've been occupying the space. So I hope that helps a little bit on that subject.
Thank you. Commissioner Armbruster.
I actually have a question for Delilah, and I'm not sure what the process is. I kind of wanted to check with her and see if something was legit, like a legit path to go down, if that was something.
Do you want to discuss it openly, or do you want to request an executive session to discuss it privately?
I think executive session.
Okay, we'd like to make a motion.
Yes, please. I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session.
I'll second the motion. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. We will enter executive session. And Maya, can you give us guidance on how the Zoom aspect of that will work?
Yeah, so I'm gonna put the commission and your secretary and counsel into a breakout room. And then when you're finished with your executive session, there will be some button on your display to come back into the main meeting. Okay, so just give me a few minutes to set that up.
Thank you.
Noriko, do I need to put your recorder in executive session?
Yes, please.
Okay. So you and the recorder. Got it. Okay. Ugh.
Okay, we're back. Is everybody back? We're back online, everybody? Oh, good. Okay. Thank you for your patience. The Leeward Planning Commission would like to get some more information, and I think Ms. Matsumoto, you might be the best person to ask on the inspections. So we just want to confirm that so far the only inspection to date has been on the foundation of the building. Is that correct?
Oh, you're talking about the building permit? I can go and check. I'm not usually in tune with the building section stuff.
Would you mind checking on that and see what inspections have been completed on?
I'll be right back.
Thank you so much. Okay. All right, Deputy Director Darrow, go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner Vatusik. Just a side note, since we have this little break. The commission may be wondering why this is a deputy director recommendation versus a planning director recommendation. You have seen those come before you in the past. When planning director Zendo Kern was approved to be director, there was some concern about his previous business as a planning consultant, and he had gone before the Board of Ethics and asked how to appropriately deal with those perceived conflicts in regards to his previous clients as well as his previous planning consulting business. And so the Board of Ethics had requested that he recuse himself for a period of 1 year from working with those particular applicants, previous clients, as well as the previous business, which is now Land Planning Hawaii, which John is representing. Whenever we receive an application from Land Planning Hawaii, it comes directly to me. Whenever we receive any application or correspondence from any previous applicant or client from our planning director, it comes directly to me, and to be able to avoid any apparent conflict or issues or anything. So again, just wanted to make that clear for you folks so you can understand as to the difference between when you see a planning director recommendation or a deputy planning director recommendation. Hopefully after 1 year, we'll be able to put that aside, and all of them will be planning director recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Aloha, Robin.
Yeah, so according to the permitting system, it shows that they did the slab and foundation inspection. That was recorded back in September of 2019. So there's nothing else after the slab. So no, none of the walls or.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it. That's super helpful. Okay. Having had a pretty lengthy fact-finding period, I'd like to request from my fellow commissioners that we proceed with a motion to either accept, deny, or defer the application on the table so that we can have a discussion. Commissioner Kanuha.
I would like to make a motion to approve this special management SPP 21-000227 under the planning deputy planning director's recommendations. I would like to put in maybe a special condition that everything for permitting wise for the building be taken care of within a year. no extension for that next year. So stuff be taken care of as soon as possible. And yeah.
Maybe for purposes, we could do a nomination to approve and then maybe seek a secondary amendment for changes to the conditions. Would that be okay with you?
Yes.
So right now we have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner DeFranco. Okay, now we'll open it up to discussion. Commissioner Kanuha, would you like to restate your concern?
Yes, excuse me, I'm in my office right now, so the answering machine, can you guys hear that in the background? Hold on one second. So yeah, basically, yes, I made a motion to approve with special conditions for, recommendations by Deputy Director Darrow, with also a special condition that the permitting issues for the building be taken care of within the next year with no extension, just to move things forward and get that building permitted.
Deputy Director, do you have a?
Yeah, if I could chime in on that. We do have the additional revised conditions, and if we can clarify with Commissioner Kanuha that includes those. To address your concerns, what we can do is on condition 17, where we put in with the exception of condition 10, we can also add in condition 6, which requires them 1 year to come in with the building permits and does not allow them the additional year for the administrative time extension for that condition. So that may resolve or may address your request there.
Commissioner Armbruster?
So just to clarify, are we asking them to final the existing permit and then go in for a revised permit? Like, we want the existing permit finalized within the year, correct? And then they start over again? We're not asking them to be done with the new stuff within the year, correct?
My understanding would be that they have to come in with a change of use permit. It wouldn't, Jessica, maybe you can chime in on this, but it didn't seem to make sense to go ahead and finalize the entire building as a ag building when they'd have to re-review it for a new type of use for that building, which would require most likely new codes. Jessica, is that true?
Yeah, that's true. They probably wouldn't even be able to obtain the existing building permit final inspections at this point if they've done any modifications, and they have that weren't included in that original permit, such as electrical and plumbing are now in the building, whereas the existing building permit was permitted as an ag structure with no plumbing or electrical. It would have to be reviewed as a new use.
New use and as-built?
Exactly. So it's like starting all over. It would have to start all over. And probably it would be up to DPW what they do with the existing permit. Perhaps they would void it.
Commissioner Kanuha, does that address your concern by changing that condition 17 to include condition 6?
Yes, that does.
Okay. And again, just so we're all on the same page, we did submit several revised conditions. So as part of the approval, we want to make sure we capture those as well. Thank you.
Sorry, could I ask a question quickly?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. As it's written, condition 6 says building permits for all existing and proposed structures and improvements, including water tank, septic system, et cetera, will be finalized within 1 year from the effective date of this permit. I just hope to seek some clarity if maybe I missed the exact transition there where the existing to be permitted and then the proposed for the change of use, whatever's necessary, is that also entirely included in this 1 year? My concern is we're placing a condition that might be insurmountable, just given feedback time with the departments, the lag generated by the implementation of the new EPIC system. There have been increased review times and all permits. So I want to make sure that's factored into this proposed condition as well. Thanks.
Deputy Corp Counsel.
Just reining us in procedurally wise, Commissioner Kanuha has somewhat of a motion that he's proposing on the floor. Once that motion is seconded, when he finalizes the motion, once it's seconded, then we can go into a more in-depth discussion. So
it was seconded by Commissioner DeFranco.
Okay, so we're officially in discussion.
We're in discussion. Yeah. Commissioner Armbruster.
Can I ask the applicant, do you have as-built and construction drawings ready to go, or is that still something you need to work out?
Thank you, Commissioner Armbruster. There are as-built drawings for the existing needing permitting bathroom facilities, the septic system as well. I believe there are as-built drawings for the entire structure. So those are very close, but again, those were built with the occupancy in mind of agricultural storage. So an architect, a draftsperson will need to review those with respect to the new occupancy, which looks to be assembly occupancy, and all the code requirements for that use be reflected in those plans. And to my knowledge, that has not yet been done.
Okay, so the new building permit submittal still needs to be developed.
Correct, yes. And it was our understanding and the landowner's understanding with working with Deputy Director Darrow that, you know, the proper procedure is to get the special permit and then go to apply for the actual building permits.
Do you think it's feasible to meet these deadlines we're giving you, considering the documents still need to be developed and then permitted and then the construction finished?
I'm no architect. I do peruse building code, and there have been significant changes to Hawaii building code of late. So I haven't had enough experience with all those changes in the new 2018 IBC to really have a good handle on the feasibility or the time that's going to be required to adapt this building to this use. I have been to the site. It is a very well built, solid steel structure, one that you see used in many commercial and industrial sites all over the island. So you know, it's not like a hoop house or something like that. Agricultural in nature, which would require insane and expensive retrofitting. So I see it as feasible. The 1 year time limit looks to be very, very ambitious if possible, given that plan approval, final plan approval has to be secured prior to building permit submittal. So, you know, there's the sequence of events, and each of those events is subject to returns from the department and additional processing time. So we see a lot of these permitting processes drag on from what we would initially estimate to be their time of completion. Unfortunately, a lot of it's just due to circumstances beyond our control that kind of come up in the reviews.
Hey, we're gonna take a quick recess for a bathroom break. I got a request, so we're gonna do a quick 5-minute bathroom break, and then we're gonna resume. So we'll do a quick recess and come back in 5 minutes. Okay. Thank you. Is everybody back? Okay. Okay, right on. Looks like we've got everybody. Okay.
And Commissioner Vitusik?
Yes.
Sorry, before we start up again, I need to correct the record. I was informed that in regards to the planning director and the deputy director moving forward, the Board of Ethics did rule that all previous clients that Zendo Kern had represented, he could not be a part of those applications or correspondence for a period of 1 year. What happened was it was disclosed that his sister works for the company that John oversees, Land Planning Hawaii. And so both the commission as well, or the Board of Ethics, as well as the director agreed that for those applications and correspondence, it would be better to just recuse himself for the period of time that he is director. And so I will be working, the way that it works is anything that comes in, again, that is a possible or perceived previous client or Land Planning Hawaii comes directly to me. He has, does not review it, does not see it, does not participate in it. We do not talk about it. It stays specifically with me. So again, just to clarify on the record, appreciate the time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Is there any further any discussion from the council members or from commission members? Deputy Director Darrow.
Sorry, I just wanted to confirm. My understanding was the recommendation was to approve the conditions. I don't know if it was made clear to approve the revised conditions as well.
My understanding was that the language was to approve the conditions from Deputy Director Darrow.
Yeah, the revised conditions that we received from Deputy Darrow. Yes, that's the motion.
Okay. And then we're in discussion now. Go ahead, Commissioner DeFranco.
So in the revised condition, this is going to include the flood mitigation and the new roadways. Is that correct? The addressing the flooding that is happening there with the proper culvert.
Commissioner DeFranco, those issues were addressed in the original conditions, I believe. The revised conditions were created to address language was actually changed from.
Yeah. Deputy Director.
Thank you, Chairman. So it sounds like the real issue here is the concern of timing for the building permits. The applicant, 1 year is a tight timeline to get. I think for any of us would agree just to get a permit, let alone to have to get a permit for a change of use after the fact with the additional restroom and the septic and the water. It might be a tight fit if even possible. So just if we can discuss that, that might be good. And maybe the applicant again can address that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's one issue. Commissioner Kunuha, would you like to respond?
Yes. So going back to that motion, looking at it and just thinking about commercial stuff that I've done before, That is a quick timeline, but there was that extra year extension on there. Am I not correct? So, well, just moving things forward, there would be that extra year on top of, trying to get it done. But at least moving with that motion, moving things forward as quickly as possible to get things in order to where the horse is in front of the carriage.
So if we're clear on the record, so we would not be adding the condition, we would not be adding to condition 17 other than what is there already. We wouldn't reference condition 6.
Yes.
Okay. Any other commissioners discussion? Okay, I have some concerns. Obviously, this is the type of project that you desperately want to support in every way possible because of what they're doing for children in our community. And just want to thank them for that, the history that they have of working to improve the lives of children in our community. It's something that we desperately need in our community. The hard thing for us is that it is difficult in that it is not as simple as we would like it to be. The concerns about safety on the property, safety for the kids who are going to be going to this special place that they'll be enjoying. The overlapping uses of construction equipment and children going to ballet practice, it is a concern of mine. I want the kids to have a place to go to be able to do ballet, but I want to make sure that they're safe. I want to make sure that the building is safe. And we've gotten assurances from the applicant's planning consultant that it's a good building, but we don't have those assurances in the form of inspections from Department of Public Works. And I think in most situations, we wouldn't be comfortable allowing hundreds of kids to congregate in a commercial use in a building that has never had any inspection, that we don't know, that we can't verify is safe. So I would personally rather have an immediate inspection of the building by Department of Public Works to determine that this is in fact a safe building, that this structure is safe, that the access road is safe, that we can make sure that we're not approving something that people can get hurt at. And I would honestly like to have that in my hands now before making a decision on whether we can allow the special permit to go forward. Does any commissioners have any thoughts? Commissioner DeFranco.
This is to Mr. Darrow. So in granting and making your recommendation that this go forward, do you have some thoughts on safety of this building?
Well, I mean, the building has a building permit. The building permit was to be for an agricultural storage building. I haven't been to the site. I've seen pretty good photos of the structure. It's definitely, as mentioned by John, a solid structure. Anything could happen. I mean, there's always that concern, the flooding on this property, the access. The goal here is we're in a situation where, like we had mentioned, the cart got before the horse. We're trying to get the horse before the cart. If Commissioner Vatusic or Chairman Vatusic feels that to make a comfortable decision of an approval for this, he would like to have that assurance that this is a safe building, by all means, we can defer this, request that an inspection be done by the Department of Public Works. Maybe, I don't know if just a preliminary inspection to confirm that this is a solid structure and that there are no safety concerns for the children at this time, and then come back in a month and make a decision. But yeah, it's a tough area to be in, when we find ourselves having to deal with this,
I think we'd all feel more comfortable if that could happen. I would feel more comfortable with that.
And not only that it inspect the building, but inspect the access to make sure that the access going across a FEMA channel is sustainable, that the kids won't get trapped, that they won't get swept away, when they're going in. I think having that insurance from, Robin, I see you've got your hand up. Please go ahead. You're our expert.
Okay, sorry about that. So, I've worked for the building division as well. So if you're asking them to, do an inspection and tell you that it's safe, I don't believe they can do that because, as Jessica stated, there are changes to the building that are not part of the current plan. So they won't take on that liability. They're inspecting for what is exactly on plan. So if there's things there that aren't on the plan, they're not going to be able to give you a passing inspection on safety. Regarding the access, it's just like you said, Chairman Vitusik, it's hard to say if this is an active construction site. I cannot say it's safe unless the construction was completed.
Do you have concerns about the safety of the access?
I have concerns when I wrote my initial response because it's still an ongoing construction site. There is another, I believe there's another section of the property that doesn't cross through the flood zone. It goes through X, but I'm not sure how much of that has been cleared to get to Hulalai Road. But that's another possibility. I don't see any restrictions on that other than, the cost to construct. John, do you know the corner I'm talking about on the other end? Do you know if there's any restrictions there?
You're muted, John.
No, I don't know exactly where you're talking about. In terms of access, we have the main access to be realigned, and then there is potentially the alternate access coming Maukamakai along the south side.
That one.
So that could be, yes, that could be developed. There's currently a 10-foot wide paved strip over a 16-inch DWS line there that feeds that fire hydrant right next to the building. So that could be improved to serve as access to this site until such time that the main access is realigned, construction finished to the Kakalina extension alignment. I think that would get around a lot of the safety concerns and just serve as a good alternative.
Is that entry off of Kahumanu Highway?
No, it is off of Walalai Road up near the big water tank.
Oh, and coming straight Makai from
Straight
there.
up, yeah, straight down. So like I said, it's paved 10-foot wide right now. That wouldn't really permit good two-way access full time. So there would be some improvements required to make that a workable access.
That definitely looks like a safer access. Commissioner Armbruster, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
Hi, would we be within our authority to request like a private the applicant have a private structural engineer look at the building? before we approve it? Like, could we defer it for a month and ask they have a structural engineer take a look at the building?
I think that would be entirely appropriate if Department of Public Works is not willing to take on that responsibility, because I believe that that liability would then fall onto us as a approving body if we're issuing a permit for a structure that may not be safe. So I think that and perhaps Deputy Corp Counsel Schluter can weigh in on that.
And just to rein this in, this special use permit is not a permit regarding the safety of the building. So the commission is not on the hook to that degree. This permit has to do essentially with the use of this property, not the safety of this building. If that helps to rein that in at all.
But I feel like at the same time, we are responsible. If we're issuing a permit, we have to consider the whether the use is reasonable for the people who are going to be using it, and reasonable meaning safe. Is the use of the property for this purpose safe? Can we? I think that's the purpose of zoning in those things, is so that there are overlapping uses that don't impinge on one another. And so requesting a structural engineer to determine the safety of it, and the engineer to determine that the access road is safe, I think those are reasonable requests from Commissioner Armbruster. Commissioner DeFranco.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mike, and Commissioner Armbruster. I think that if we're allowed to ask for that, we should. I think we're all trying to get the cart before the horse before the cart here, but you've got to give us something to get there. I mean, right now we're trying to work with you as much as we can, but we want to know that the building is safe, even though we understand it's not our liability. We are approving use. We would like to approve this gym, but we want to make sure that it is safe for the kids, and that they can get there and they can get out of there if they needed to.
I think that to the applicant, would the applicant be willing to provide a civil engineer and a structural engineer to determine the safety of the access to the property and the safety of the building, and to come back in a month and present those to us and discuss it at that time?
I'm willing to do whatever I have to do to get this approved.
Thank you.
And again, a little bit on timeline. It may be tight, and we may have to push it for another month just due to workloads of civil and structural engineers to get them to have time to do their reviews.
Yep, sure. No stress on you guys on doing that. Don't want to. Okay. Yes, Nanette.
I'm sorry. We keep talking about timelines, and in my head, I keep thinking, what about the COVID thing going on? I mean, one of the reasons we didn't put our application in sooner was because of COVID, and everything was shut down, including us. So I'm just afraid that we might end up in that situation again. And if we do, are there going to be exceptions made? Oh, everything was shut down for 90 days. So I guess that's the only alarm going off in my head.
Yeah, and we're not trying to put a timeline on you to complete these requirements. I think from our perspective, the timeline to complete the requirements of providing engineers to document the safety of your place, and however long that takes you, that's up to you guys. Basically, we want to make sure that you can come in next month if you want to. We don't want to be the ones holding you up. But if your consultants need more time than that's fine with us. Deputy Director Darrow.
Thank you, Chairman Batustik. So as a consideration also, John had touched upon it briefly, there is an alternative access to the special permit area. It comes off Hualalai Road a little further Mauka, and it is paved, but it's only paved 10 feet wide at this time. There could be in consideration that if there are concerns about the main access, that this be used until that main access is constructed. They could put pullouts along that emergency access roadway to allow for the two vehicles if they were to use that for ingress and egress. So again, just another consideration.
Thank you. No, I think that should absolutely be considered in the when they come back, hopefully, and we can. From my perspective, I think a thing that would be excellent to consider in the special permit application is considering the access as part of the special permit application, so that is drawn on the map and we're seeing where the location is coming off of, whether it's this way, whether it's coming, north-south or coming Malcolm Mackay. And honestly, I'd leave that up to you and to your civil engineers to determine what's the safest way to access this site so that we stay clear of construction traffic, we stay clear of flooding, and we get the kids to their gym safely. I guess with that, I would seek a motion to defer. If anyone would be willing to make that motion. Commissioner Armbruster?
I'd like to make a motion to defer our decision on this issue until the applicant is able to provide the engineering support we've requested.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Yates. Is there any discussion? Okay. Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Okay, Commissioner Armbruster. I'm sorry, is that an aye?
That was an aye, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, yes, aye.
Commissioner Yates.
Aye.
Commissioner DeFranco.
Aye.
Commissioner Kanuha.
Aye.
Chair Vatusik.
Aye.
5-0, the motion passes.
Thank you all. Thank you all for your time. And I just want to say again that we support what you're doing in the community, and we look forward to helping find a way to work this out. Thank you. Okay. I would like to move forward. I think the next item hopefully will go fairly quick. If that's okay with you, we'll just continue with this instead of break for lunch. Is that okay with everybody? Okay. Item number 2 is unfinished business. The applicant application to Katarina Maisin, SMA 21-00078 regarding contested case proceedings, clarification of intervener capacity granted on June 16th, 2021. The discussion and clarification of the capacity in which standing was granted by the commission to George Smith as an intervener in the contested case proceeding, specifically whether Mr. Smith was granted standing as an individual or on behalf of the Alakala Community Association of Apartment Owners. The sole issue that needs to be addressed today is whether Mr. Smith has standing as an individual or on behalf of the Alakala Association of Apartment Owners. Mr. Smith initially submitted his petition for standing under his name on February 22nd, 2021, which was deemed incomplete without payment. His subsequent petition filed on March 23rd, 2021 was complete and accepted. And the petition was by George Smith, President, Alakala AOAO, Association of Apartment Owners. The commission voted to grant Mr. Smith standing at the June 16, 2021 hearing. However, neither the discussion nor motion clearly recognized his intended capacity. Therefore, it's necessary to determine and clarify the record as to the capacity in which the commission granted his standing. So this was brought up by our corporation counsel, and we issued a letter on August 17th, 2021, requesting clarification of this issue. Mr. Smith has had the other Association of Apartment Owner members submit emails authorizing Mr. Smith to represent the Association of Apartment Owners, which has been distributed by the commission. Parties in attendance, we have Mr. George Smith and John Pippin on behalf of the applicant, as well as Deputy Director Darrow. If you'll raise your right hands, I'll swear you in together. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on the matter before the Planning Commission?
I do.
Thank you. Our staff planner, Alex Roy. Alex, do you have anything that you want to add at this point?
I do not. I'm just here in case there needed to be any, if there was any questions from the commission.
Okay, Mom. Mr. Smith,
Yes,
is
sir.
there anything that you'd like to present to the commission in addition to what you've submitted in writing?
Well, I guess the only thing I would say is that had I known the intricacies of the application the first time through, I would have clearly stated that I was authorized by all persons. On my resubmittal, where I did clarify that I was the president of the association, I and all of the rest of the owners just assumed that that was enough of verification that I was representing our association.
No worries. Learning process for all of us, I think. I have a question. Do you have a formal board structure that issues decisions for the president to act on its behalf, or is this just everybody is in agreement and we're good to go?
Well, we're spread out, of course. Our vice president is in Utah, our treasurer is in Colorado, and I'm here. And we have I won't say loose, but not highly structured board. We work together. We make sure we verify everything with each other, either by email or by text, but we wouldn't have ever even thought that we would need a formal statement for something that's this simple from our perspective.
Gotcha. And just for our records, on the emails we received where everybody's indicating that they authorize you to represent them, does that constitute everybody in the apartments?
Yes, that's all owners.
All of the owners of the apartment have consented to having you represent. Okay.
That is correct.
Thank you. Is there any other questions for Mr. Smith? Okay, Mr. Pippin, do you have anything to add at this point?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you, Chair. Sorry, a bit of an echo. Thank you, Chair Vatuzik, for asking. My questions would basically echo yours. Was there any formal communications or determination ahead of the petition for standing that documented this decision, or is it an after the fact kind of piling on? And each of the members of or owners at the Alacala condominium had the opportunity to submit their own petitions for standing as well. So if Mr. Smith is representing them each individually, I think they should have had their own petitions in the case, or the AOAO should have had some more formal documentation of their request and representation in the matter.
Deputy Director Darrow, do you have anything that you'd like to add here?
I agree that this is, especially with the situation that Mr. Smith is in, that this isn't a clear, there isn't clear direction for somebody that's going through this process that might not be familiar with it. With that said, the planning department doesn't have any objection to allowing standing for the AOAO. In the past, when we've had contested cases where there were numerous interveners, if the concerns and issues were the same by all the interveners, we basically put them together as one intervention, as one contested case petition, because all the issues were the same. Even if all the other association owners submitted, we would probably do the same in this case because the issues would be clearly the same. Thank you.
Okay, commissioners, are there any questions on the standing of Mr. Smith as representing the Association of Apartment Owners? Okay. Is there someone make a motion to clarify Mr. Smith's capacity in which standing was granted? Basically seeking a motion to acknowledge that Mr. Smith was granted standing in the contested case to represent the Alacala Association of Apartment Owners. Commissioner Kanuha.
Make a motion to grant Mr. Smith representation of the Alacala Association and for standing contested case hearing.
Okay. Delilah, does that motion work for our purposes?
We're just clarifying what standing he was granted in. So we're just clarifying the action that was already taken. So we wouldn't be giving him standing again. We're just clarifying what capacity.
So we changed the motion, Commissioner Kanuha, to clarify. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, perfect. The motion on the floor is to clarify that Mr. Smith was granted standing to represent the Alacala Association of Apartment Owners. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Yates. Discussion. Personally, I thought that that's what we were doing at the time, but I think that the added clarification from the members saying that that's also what they had believed at the time is helpful, and there's no harm in providing the added layer of clarification. So I'll support the motion. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll proceed with a roll call vote.
Commissioner Kanuha.
Aye.
Commissioner Yates.
That was an aye.
Commissioner Armbruster.
Aye.
Commissioner DeFranco.
Aye.
And Chair Vitusa.
Aye.
Vote passes 5-0 to clarify that George Smith can represent AOAO in the contested case for Jekaterina Mason.
Okay. Thank you very much. Will he be notified of this in writing?
Yes.
Okay, you will be notified of this in writing. Terrific. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, everybody.
Okay, aloha.
Aloha.
Agenda items for next meeting. Currently on our list, we have a series of presentations for infrastructure improvements, long-range planning by different entities. That's being worked on now. Talking to planning department staff, it looks like that's going to be scheduled for December. Looks like we've got a busy couple of months coming up with some agenda items, so we don't want to push it too hard and keep us here too long. So we're gonna push that until we have some space available, but it is in the works. And then the other item is we're gonna get an update on the status of short-term vacation rental program as requested by Commissioner Yates. So that will be forthcoming when the time's available. We're shooting for December, but if there is carryover, it may get bumped until January. Announcements. Leeward Planning Commission's next monthly meeting is scheduled for Thursday, October 21st. It's also going to be Zoom. Looks like we're going to keep Zooming for a while now. Is there any updates from staff?
Yes, thanks, Chair Vitusik. I have one announcement. We have a nomination for the Leeward Planning Commission that was forwarded to the County Council by the mayor. And so I just want to share some information about this nominee. Her name is Faye Mahina Paishan Duarte. She is a lifelong Hawaii resident and an award-winning educator, policymaker, and consultant, deeply rooted in Hawaiian culture and place. She is the co-founder and CEO of Vai Collective, creatively growing community, culture, and commerce, and Vai Consulting, developing culturally and community responsive management plans for native ecosystems. Mahina earned her bachelor's degree in Hawaiian Studies at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, a graduate certificate in Kahua Vaiola, Indigenous Teacher Education from the University of Hawaii at Hilo, and her master's degree in Business Administration from Hawaii Pacific University. She actively serves the community in numerous capacities, including as co-founder of Aina Ola Economic Futures, vice chair of Vibrant Hawaii, and a member of Hui Oihana Native Hawaiian Chamber of Commerce, to name a few. If Mahina is confirmed, she will fill the at-large North Kona vacancy with a term ending December 31st, 2024. And her nomination is up for before the Planning Committee at the County Council next Tuesday, the 21st. So stay tuned. We may have another commissioner.
Thank you for the update.
Yeah, no problem.
Any other updates from staff?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll seek a motion to adjourn. Moved by Commissioner Yates. Second by Commissioner Kanuha. Mahalo. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Terrific. This meeting is adjourned at 12:52 p.m. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate
Thanks,
the
Mike.
participation.
It's great.
Aloha.
Follow commissioners.
Like your shirt, Jeff. Nice.
That is a nice shirt. I'm not gonna lie, it's a nice shirt.
Hard work. Aloha.
Aloha.
All you guys.
Okay.
Have a
Bye.
great day.
Aloha.
Aloha. Bye, Faye.
Bye.